Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are reading Bitter Roots. What's the name of the volume again?
Family Business.
Family Business. And Bitter Root is what part of our Black History Month comic book selections. So this is written by, what's his name?
David F. Walker.
David F. Walker. And it's also drawn by...
This is Chuck Brown and
Chuck Brown.
Sanford Green.
I think Sanford Green is the actual artist.
Okay.
And this book is about a black family that is in the 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Harlem, for the most part.
Yeah, but the majority of the story takes place in Harlem. There's a couple other side places. But.
Yes, and it's about like the family is a group of monster curers. They're like curers. They're not hunters.
Yeah, exactly. Because I would have said hunters, but they're not really. They're purifying the soul.
Yeah, they're purifiers. That's what they kind of call them. And so what the monsters in this book are called Janu, and which I don't know. Is that supposed to be like Chanu? I think there's like a monster that's already called the Chanu.
The Chinu, yeah. I assumed. But.
Okay. So I think that is like a corrupted person or something. So they just kind of call it something similar, like maybe it's just their accent too. It's just Janu, and then it is specifically a person who has hatred in their heart or greed. They will turn, and kind of like randomly when they'll turn, because a lot of the people in this book only turn when they're actually fighting this family. I noticed. So it's like they're normal people until the family comes to fight them, and then they turn into. But some of the people aren't. Some of the people are already like full-fledged Chinu. But some of the monsters, they turn when they're fighting the family. So we start off in Harlem, in New York, in 1924, and it is a roaring and a rumbling. It's
the roaring 20s.
It's the roaring 20s. It's very music heavy. There's this is a great page. First page of this is like a double page spread, and you just get the like full ambiance and excitement of what it was like in the 20s with this music. I guess
This thing called jazz.
Yeah, it's this thing called jazz. I don't know if you ever heard of it. But yeah, it seems like there's just a band playing and there's a bunch of people dancing and everybody's having fun. And then there's a couple that leaves the dance, and they were, they're still dancing outside. That's how fun this dance was. And they walk into a park.
And something happens.
And something happens. But we cut before that happens to the next night because they see something. They're like, ah, and then it cuts, right? So we cut to the next night, and we are introduced to the first two main characters of this family, which is Bessie and Mama Etta. And Ma Etta is like kind of the matriarch of this family, and she is I don't know if there's a word for it. Did they say like what it's called when they can do magic but with like roots? So like they distill different kinds of roots and make potions that cure these Janu.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember a specific name of it.
I don't even know if it's considered magic when they do it, because they call it a science. So it might just be that they're considering it like a science.
Yeah, because the grandma Etta specifically says like the women in the families are more of the science,
the brains,
the brains based.
So, but it kind of seems like maybe it's science because they're doing it like kind of like if they were cooking or something. There was a mixture, like a proper ratio of elements or whatever. So they have to mix this much root and this much of that root and whatever. They make a
different serums.
Yes, and so they're in the kitchen, or this. I don't know if this is the kitchen or just an area down in I'll say it's the laboratory because I don't see a sink or anything, so it must be just like a laboratory. But they have all their roots there, and they're making this solution, and then on top you hear like thud thud thud, and like what's going on upstairs, and Bessie is saying like I should be up there with them, and Ma Etta's like no you shouldn't, and then we cut to upstairs. And we see the next two characters of this family, which are Cullen, who is a skinnier, more younger man.
He's like a scrawny, scrappy dude.
Yeah, and he's like new at this apparently. He's training still on how to defeat these monsters, or at least trap them so that they can purify them. They have like these big boxes that are made of metal, maybe iron or something, I don't know. And they lock them in there, and then they're able to give them the serum, which purifies them and turns them back into humans. So Cullen is kind of losing at this fight. They have there's two Chinu they're fighting on the roof. One of them is already in a box. Maybe Berg got that one on his own. He's the other brother up here.
Yeah.
I don't know if we said that, but then Berg is just kind of like, you got it, bro. You got to learn someday how to fight these things on your own. So I'm not going to help you. And Cullen is
he's just like sipping a cup of tea. I think Berg was probably one of my favorite characters.
Berg is cool. He's got he's very loquacious. He's got a very extensive vocabulary.
Yeah.
And he's like, for example, the first line he has is, Cullen, might I offer a bit of sagacious insight to your current predicament? So he's very, like we said, he's got a lot of words, what are those called? $10 words.
Yeah. And it's fun because his character, he like, when you look at him, he comes off as like the
Big
juggernaut,
burly.
the brute of the group, which, I mean, not to say that he isn't, but he's also like, he's very knowledgeable. It's fun.
He got the brains and the brawn.
Yeah.
And so Cullen is not doing too well. He does get a couple punches off. He wears these like battery gloves, I guess. They're powered by a machine on his back, like a backpack. And they kind of look like Hellboy's hands or something, like his right hand of doom, but on both hands. Hey, now that we're looking at this, I just realized you told me the wrong name, John. Her name, the girl downstairs that we thought was Bessie, is named Blink.
That's my bad, because I thought Blink was like her nickname.
I knew it was Blink. You were just like, no, it's Bessie.
Well, yeah, because I thought, but that was because she was talking about someone else. I misunderstood.
Okay.
Anyway,
so we cut downstairs where Blink and Ma Etta are talking, and Blink's like, look, I should go on the roof. I can hear them losing. I need to help them. And Ma's like, no, you should stay down here. That's where she kind of says, it's the men fight. They have the brawn, and we're the brains, and we do the root work down here. And Blink's like, no, I'm gonna go do something. So while Cullen is almost about to lose to this monster upstairs now, Blink runs out and is like, what are you doing? Like, it seems like you're playing around. Berg's just sitting there kind of smiling, so it seems like they're goofing off, and they need to be, getting control of this monster on the roof. So she yells at them to stop messing around, both of them, and then proceeds to beat the shit out of the monster, like, barehanded.
Yeah.
Like, she knows how to fight very well. Like, she's got an uppercut and a right cross. She's using elbows. She's using Muay Thai or some shit. Like, and she even lands like, like, like she's prepared. Like, she's gonna go like wave forward. Like, come on, And the Cullen and Berg just kind of. Berg doesn't seem like he's surprised, but Cullen is very surprised. And what do you think of this scene?
Well, I assumed when she was like, I'm going to go take care of things, like, oh, okay, so she's a secret badass who doesn't want to only be
right. Yes. I was just like, has she trained before or something? Or is this like her first time ever fighting a monster?
I just assume it meant she's done that before,
okay.
Like maybe secretly.
Okay. Yeah, because like that makes more sense. Maybe they go into that later on or something. I was just kind of thinking like one of the things that tends to happen nowadays in comics, because we're just like, we want you to know that this character's badass, is they just have them be badass right away. And I was like, I like it when the characters aren't badass at first, like they have to go through a journey, like, or maybe they think they're badass and then they get beat and then they have to learn, like in The Question, in that first arc, he's like, I'm fucking awesome, and then he gets the shit beat out of him by Lady Shiva, and he's like, maybe I don't have everything down. Maybe I need to learn. So he goes and does like a whole, spiritual journey or whatever, and gets more badass. I like that kind of thing. I was trying to think, like, all my favorite characters have done that. Like Constantine has like a moment like that in the first story arc, where he's always haunted by Newcastle, where he was a dumb kid and he fucked up and all his friends died or whatever. So, things like that. So I think maybe it's just because they were trying to like, okay, we're just kind of trying to establish that she's like really cool and good. They just kind of skip over some of the like finer elements of the character development. Yeah. It's fine. It's what happens like nowadays, because they're just like, let's get to the cool shit or something. But I just noticed that. I was like, okay, I guess they're just going to like make her super badass right away. So, but it's cool. She grabs this stick that, I don't know, I guess the stick, it's got like rune writing on it.
It's some kind of staff.
Yeah, it's a staff, I should say. and it's got like rune writing on it, so it must be like a magical element or something, because it doesn't break, and she can like hit people with it, and they kind of, it seems like it gives them a good like whomping, you know. So she knocks that monster out completely, and then puts it in a box. Then we cut. Well, actually, we don't cut to. We see a pigeon on the roof looking at them very weirdly. It's got red eyes. Red eyes, I swear to God. and it takes off in flight, and it flies back to San Juan Hill, which is west of Harlem, it says. And there is a couple who's in another laboratory. And their names are Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale. And this pigeon flies all the way back to them, and it lands, and they're talking, and she's like, oh, I wonder if you'll be able to see what it saw. Because obviously the pigeon has been viewing what happened on that rooftop.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a robot or something.
Yeah. I was like, what are they doing? And then you just see, like, the guy take him, like, yeah, we'll have to see what it saw. And then Sylvester grabs it, and then you just hear, like, chomp, and, like, it crunches the bird. It eats the bird, basically. I kind of wish it was a little bit more graphic instead of just, like, because at first I was like, did he smash it? And then there are feathers coming out of his mouth in the next scene, but I kind of wish it was a little bit more like, there's a bird in
Maybe
his
you
mouth.
said like a little foot
a leg
hanging
or
out.
something. Yeah. There are feathers, but I thought it kind of the way that the panel was drawn, it could have just been like he smashed the bird and the feathers like poofed up and are in front of his face.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like maybe because the panel was so small or whatever, they only fit a certain amount of it. But yeah, this guy, I guess he can eat birds or animals that he's maybe corrupted or something.
Yeah, I assume it was like a corrupted pigeon or something.
Yeah. Of course.
It's got red eyes.
Yeah, pigeons are already corrupted. They're like the rats of the sky, right?
That's true.
And so he is able to see what the pigeon saw, and is like, oh, I see the whole fight. I see that family, and they're pathetic. And they really don't like this family, this couple here. And we find out that we find out that the family, which is called the Sangerye,
Sangeres, I believe.
Yeah. I was like,
Sangeres.
I
think looking at it, I think it's Sangerye.
Sangerye. Okay. Yeah. I was like, how do we say this name? I was like, should I look it up on Google? Like, is this a common name that I just never heard before? But yeah, so the main family is the Sangerye family, and this couple is against them, and that the main family, like, they cure people, and this couple, Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale, want to kill all those people. And so she injects him with something, like some other serum, and they make sure that they say, like, that family, the Sangeres, they have like a special kind of, do they say it's magic or just formula? They have the strongest root, they specifically say.
Yeah.
And so he injects it into him, and then we cut back to the family, and they have a very similar looking vial. As Grandma Etta is holding it, and I guess this is the serum that they've made from the bitter roots, and they give it to, or they bring it up to the roof to give to the monsters. And Cullen, because he's still training, is like, has to do it. He's like, they're like, here you go, Cullen, give it to the monster. And I was like, this monster, I don't know how he gets this dude's arm out of that box, like, and holds it down. But this monster looks like a red abominable snowman. So like, and like I think he's got horns and shit too. So maybe like more of like a hairy devil or something. And he's able to like hold it steady, buddy, and just like puts his hand on the wrist and is like, yeah, I got it, like, no problem. And he's like kind of nervous, but he eventually does put it in there in the guy's arm. And then the person inside of that monster comes out and like transforms back into the person. So the monster is now purified, I guess, of whatever caused him to become this Jinnu. And which I think is, like they said later, or they say before, it's like hate and greed turns people into this. And so they are cleansing them, like we said. And then we cut to the park where that nice couple at the beginning that was in the jazz club got something happened. We don't know what happened. But this is 1 hour later in St. Nicholas Park in Harlem. And there's two policemen walking. And they're searching the area for the murderer who's been stalking this park and killing people. They've been finding either people going missing or just people murdered. And, of course, they stumble upon Berg and Cullen dropping off the purified white guys or white people who that were the monsters that they just cured an hour ago. So of course they're like, freeze. And of course, because this is like the 20s and they're black, it's like, okay, well, they're probably automatically assuming they're suspects, which they are. They're like, yeah, I think we found the guys who killed those people, because these two black men have white people in their hands and they're unconscious. So, but we see behind them, as they say, like, looks like we found them. There's a monster of some sort.
Right behind the police officer.
Yeah, in the shadows though, like it's shadowed out, so you can't really see what it is. But the Cullen and Berg are like, I was gonna say the Cullens, like from Twilight. Yeah, but anyway, very different movie or different franchise, and it's like the exact opposite. It's like sparkling vampires or just supernatural hunters or whatever, purifiers. So it's a totally different vibe. So anyway, we won't talk about Twilight too much in this. Although I just rewatched the first movie for funsies just to laugh at it, and it is terrible. I forgot how bad it is. So we should do like a full 4-movie watch on that.
I'd be down. I will say a shout out to another podcast I listen to. It's called Mr. Sunday Movies. They do a lot of stuff on comics, TVs, and movies as well. And I went to watch one because I thought they were doing a Batman lead up for the new Batman movie that's coming out.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were doing a Robert Pattinson movie.
Yeah, and they're like Batman Begins. I was like, oh, cool. Well, no, it's the thumbnail was Batman Begins. I was like, oh, cool, I'll listen to that one. And I clicked it on, and it's like, hey, yeah, we're Batman Begins, right? Because Batman. And oh no, actually, this is about Twilight. And nice. Then they did the first Twilight. It was a great fake out. So
nice, I like that. I'll have to check that out. But anyway, back to the comic. So the police have their guns trained on the Sangerye boys, Berg and Cullen, and they don't see the cops don't see the monsters behind them. But Berg's like, hey, like, you might want to look behind you, and then like, good try. Like, we're not going to take our eyes off of you. And he's like, hey, don't shoot. You're in danger. And the cop's like, you threatening us? And just like escalates it crazy. And then as Berg says, don't shoot, back to him, the cop, the younger of the two cops, shoots at him like 6 times. And Berg is able to block them with his staff. So that, like I said, that staff is obviously magical or something, or is made of some adamantium or something, because the bullets just bounce off of it and like fall down. So Berg is actually nice about that, and it's just like, I said don't shoot. And so he doesn't beat the fuck out of the guy, but it doesn't matter because the policemen die anyway. They get decapitated by the monster that was behind them the whole time. And we see that this monster looks a bit different than the ones that were before on the rooftop. The ones before, like we said, were like hairy kind of demons looking, bigger, but not like.
But gigantic. Like devilish demon.
Yeah, more devilish. And this one looks like a bird-headed, like I don't know what you call it. Just
so it made me think of 2 different things. It made me think of the like Secret of Nim style, like crazy birdish creatures, or like the Rockadoodle, the owls.
It does remind me of the Rockadoodle owls.
Yeah.
Rockadoodle.
Yeah, because it's like it's like this big, like he's kind of he's got definitely like a feathery like mane kind of thing, and then a big bird head beak. But then the rest of the body's kind of like grayish black with like
humanoid. It's got arms and legs, and it doesn't look hairy or anything. So just big and bulky, and it can talk though, and it says "Stay back," and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And they're like, "This doesn't look like any Gnu we've ever seen." And Berg tries to take it on, but he gets punched backwards. He gets kind of hurt, right, from it.
Yeah, he gets thrown back.
Yeah, he gets thrown back, lands on the ground, and then I know he gets scratched or something though.
Yeah,
because we'll get to that later. But he does get scratched, or somehow something happens to him. And then we cut to Mississippi that same night, and we see there is a African American man who is getting surrounded by KKK members.
Yeah.
And they are about to murder him. I guess it looks like they're about to burn him on a cross or something. Like they're going to
something, but there's people yelling, hang him and stuff too. Like it's weird.
Yeah. So he is fighting them, and as he's fighting them, he pulls one of the hoods off of the men, and we see it's a younger looking dude who's obviously white, and that guy gets really mad and says, "You son of a," and punches this guy. And the white guy proceeds to say, "This'll learn you not to mess with no white women." So apparently this guy is in trouble because supposedly he
Yeah.
was, I don't know, slept with or at least fraternizing
yeah,
or
something.
just assumed to be like something with white women, which they don't like. So they actually, okay, here we go. They were going to hang him because they have a noose ready. And as they're about to hang him, someone starts shooting, and it turns out it is another relative of the family, and his name is Ford.
Yeah.
And he is a badass. I was like, I like this guy. He's got all these cool guns that shoot. It looks like they kill. I mean, he just kills them. I don't know what he shoots out of it because it is got like it's got these little cool vials.
Yeah.
It's kind of steampunk, the way they draw their weapons and stuff. Like even Cullen's gloves and backpack is kind of like, for the 20s, it's more like steampunk or whatever. It's not so sci-fi looking. It doesn't look futuristic, but it has these little vials that I guess have like the root formulas in them. And I was wrong. I don't think it kills them because in the next page, he's like, we got to get out of here or whatever. But yeah, he definitely leaves them injured at least, and he's got the black man that he just saved. And that was the first issue. It leaves you on that cliffhanger. And one thing, I know you wanted to talk about this. There was an alternate cover for this issue by Mike Mignola.
Oh no, just in general, I was gonna say at the end there were a couple of alternate covers, and specifically, this one by Mike Mignola is because his art is just fantastic.
It looks so cool. I was like, he should draw like a full issue of this.
And there's another one by Ben Oliver. We probably see it later. It was like a really large like monster head. And like one of the family like coming at it. It was really cool. Like there was some really cool variant
there was
covers.
one by like Bill Sienkiewicz too, which was very cool. So he got some good talent. Besides, I mean, the interior art is very good. Yeah. But the variant covers were very cool as well. So we start chapter 2. We're back. We start in Mississippi again, and we find out that the monsters are not dead. The other Klansmen do come back to life. But the white guy that punched, the black man that was going to get hung, he wasn't part of them, or he wasn't shot at least. I guess this guy who's part of the family, what's his name again? Ford. Ford knows that he's not a monster or a Janu. But that guy, the white guy, doesn't see, the people behind him, and he's like, "You killed them. You killed them all. You killed all our people. We weren't even doing anything." He basically says like they were just innocent people, and you just walked up and killed them all. And then he's like, really innocent? And he turns, the white guy turns around and he sees all of them are like these monster people now that kind of look like demons. And the white guy, who's named Johnny, right? That's his name. So Johnny is like, oh my God. And he freaks out, and Ford goes to shoot them again, basically. And he doesn't purify him, right? He just, after, like, he doesn't he say like, oh, I just kill him straight up.
Yeah.
So I guess like he's got to shoot him a couple more times with this serum, but eventually it kills them. And so then we cut back to the park where Cullen is with Berg, and Berg is down. He's not feeling good at all. He's still able to talk, but the bird monster is like standing over them, and he's just like, step aside. And he says their name, Sangerye, and they're like, he knows us. Like Cullen's like, how does this work or whatever?
Yeah, how does this Janu know that? That's weird.
Yeah, and so this monster is there to steal the white people that were Janus that they cured earlier.
Yeah.
So those people are like starting to wake up now. I guess they were passed out from the serum, but now they're starting to wake up. And actually, one of the cops, I thought both of them got decapitated, but apparently one of them just got like mortally wounded, but it was still alive. And he pulls out his gun. He's like, and you're going to pay for this. And he shoots the monster and kind of distracts from what was going on. But that gives Cullen time enough to try to attack the bird monster with a stick. But he gets thrown as well. Or not with the stick, with the staff, I should say. But he gets thrown as well. And Berg's like, Cullen, you have to retreat. Like, we can't beat this thing. So they retreat, and the bird monster grabs the two white people that were just waking up. And I should also say that they say like, oh, this is a weirder Janu than I've ever seen, and the bird monster's like, I am not a Janu, you're so mistaken. So this is a new kind of monster that they haven't ever fought before. And then it proceeds to run away with those bodies, and there's two other cops that were in the comic earlier. We didn't really mention them because they're kind of like humor. They're just like side humor. Every now and then they'll show up. kind of like Sam and Twitch from like Spawn or something. Like every now and then they'll just throw a couple panels of them like looking at a murder scene or whatever, and then they always say something interesting or funny. So one of the cops is like an Irish guy, and the other cop is African American, and they have like a banter between them where the Irish guy's always like, "Man, your people are at it again," and the black cop's like, "What do you mean by you people? I'm not part of them. They're the weird Sangerye family." And it's always like they're always at like Sangerye murder scenes or whatever, or like crime scenes. So that's their banter back and forth generally. Then we cut back to Mississippi where Johnny, the white guy that is part of the KKK, is taking off his hood now, and like you said, he's blaming Ford for killing all his buddies. And then Ford's like, "Look at your friends. They don't look like people, right? Like they look like monsters. Don't you see that they look terrible?" And he's like, "What?" And then Johnny calls Ford boy. He says, "You killed my folks, boy." And Ford turns around and says, "That's the last time you ever fucking call me boy." And like, and puts the gun in his face. And then Johnny's like, "Oh, well, my bad. Like, puts his hands up and says, "Okay, that's fine."
And this is where Johnny gets his new nickname for the rest of the entire comic.
Yeah, basically, Ford calls Johnny Peckerwood, so that's what we'll call him for the rest of this too.
Just to make sure, we're in continuity.
Yeah, we don't want to confuse the white people in this book. So also his name's Johnny. What is it? Johnny something Knox? Johnny Ray Knox.
Johnny Ray Knox.
And I read this the first time and I was like, Johnny Knoxville? I just read it like really quick and I said, Johnny Knox. And I just put Johnny Knoxville in my head. I was like, are they saying that they don't like Johnny Knoxville? But yeah, I thought that was funny. But so anyway, we'll call him Peckerwood for the rest of this. But it's interesting. He right away, as the gun's pointed at him, he's like, well, I didn't really know them that well anyway, and I never lynched anybody, and this was my first time, God's honest truth and all this stuff. So he's trying to talk his way out of being killed, but Ford's like, well, obviously you're not, this is you're not evil or whatever because you didn't turn into a Janu, and only if you have evil in your heart, that's how you turn. So, or hatred in your heart, I guess. Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of weird that like the switch is so quick with Johnny or Peckerwood, and I mean, he was literally on the last page in a Klan's robe punching a black man to hang him.
It was all peer pressure, and what he was
even if it's still an evil act, it seemed like he really hated him when he was punching him in the face.
Yep.
About to put a noose over.
Said they were going to hang him.
Yeah. So I thought this was a very quick turnaround for Johnny, but kind of like maybe the fight with Blink where she can just kick ass right away. Maybe they just need the story to progress faster, or they want it to. Yeah. And so they just they don't give him that full arc of how he changed, because you could have had him still be like racist and say like, I mean, he still kind of says stuff every now and then, but like more often be like still like, I'm with you because there's a monster and monsters are worse than black people, but there's definitely a hierarchy, and I'm going to say things every now and then to you, and then eventually over time in the book I will be changed as a person or something, So
but his switch was quite quick.
Very, very quick, which I mean, like I said, it's fine if you're just trying to push the story forward, but personally I'm just like, okay, like we just have to accept that as an audience and buy it. But me, I'm like, I like a little bit more reason for the change kind of thing. But so he follows Ford as Ford walks away because he's like, oh, I know. Or I guess Peckerwood says, hey, if you think this is bad, there's actually stories of another monster guy further north or whatever, or further south. I don't know where the fuck, further away.
Yeah, so I bet I know where more of these Janu whatever are.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, take me there. So he takes Ford to a place. Then we cut to San Juan Hill again, and we're back in Dr. Sylvester's laboratory, and we see Miss Nightsdale is gone, and but there's a bird that the bird monster appears. So we're like, okay, the bird monster's part of Dr. Sylvester's, and personally, I thought that Dr. Sylvester was the bird monster because he got an injection right before this. So, but apparently the monster is actually Miss Nightingale. Miss Nightsdale. And so she transforms back and drops the white people on the floor. And it turns out that she brought them back because they're purified souls now. And like, for sure they're purified because the Sangeryes like we're bringing them to drop them off in the park or whatever after having purified them. So they knew 100% these are pure souls.
Yeah.
So he can, he is like a monster, and he uses the roots to like suppress his monsterness, I guess. But he's some kind of different being, and he can eat the souls, or is powered off the souls of like pure people or whatever. So, or purified people. So he actually like absorbs the souls of these white people, and that's how he keeps alive, I guess, is he can feed off that energy. Then we get back to Harlem. Okay, this is one thing I want to bring up about this book, is they don't always say like Harlem or whatever, or like the Sangerye house, because like when they switch locations, and I found that it wasn't like horribly jarring or like hard to follow, but there was definitely like some awkwardness while reading it, being like, wait, where are we now? Like, and you're just supposed to assume based on the cast that's there, like, Berg and Cullen are in the forest or the park, and so that's where they are, and Ford and Peckerwood are in Mississippi. So if they cut to those, you're just supposed to get it, on your own. But because this is a large cast, and so sometimes I'd be like, wait, where were we at last time? Because the story's
that's true, because this is a large family, and we haven't met them all yet.
Yeah, that's true. And like it's just like they would, you spend a lot of time or segments in this area, and then you cut back and you're like, wait, what was going on before? Where are we again? So it was a little bit hard to follow sometimes. It took me like, I'd start reading and be like, wait, where are we now? And then also like in this scene, Cullen and Berg come back from the park. So you're like, wait, are they in the park still? And then it was like, oh no, they're back at the house in Harlem. So I just had to remember that. And I just thought it was a little bit clunky or whatever. So not like anything terrible, but I did notice it for sure when I was reading, and it just like it didn't flow as well as it could have, I think. But they bring Berg and Cullen and Berg come into the house at Harlem, and they're like, we need to help Berg. Something's going on with him. And Berg has been corrupted in some way. It seems like this is like the last page of this part of the book, and they show him, and he looks all like gigantic, and he's still, the funny thing is, as this giant monster who's like got green skin and red eyes, he still kind of has the same shape. He's not fully transformed into a monster yet, but he definitely still talks like himself, which is a funny concept. It's kind of like if Hulk had very, very high vocabulary or whatever. So it's kind of like a funny juxtaposition. So there's my $10 word, juxtaposition. But yeah, so I thought this was cool. If later on I feel like they're going to keep him not cured and like make him like the Hulk of the group. So he'll kind of be like Smart Hulk or something.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. I don't know if they do, but that's kind of how I thought. Oh, that could happen. Then we start at chapter 3, and we see the police are out in full force. And this is where chapter 3 is where you have a lot of the storylines going on all at once. And kind of overlapping.
And the first page here literally has all 3 different places where things are like kind of going down, like the main story threads are. And they all have like a little bit of overlapping either bubbles or characters into the panels as well. So yeah, It's a little.
So unless you're like, oh, I'm 100% on what's going on and what people are where, you're reading it and you just kind of continue and you're like, oh wait, no, this is a different scene. They do delineate like colors and stuff, but it just is like, okay, sometimes this page might not be as confusing, but then later on in this issue, for sure, there's like panels that float in another scene that are from another place or whatever. So it kind of was confusing to me, at least. I don't know. Maybe not everybody felt like that. Maybe I'm just a stupid comic book reader. I'm not as smart as you should be. But yeah, so like we said, the police are fighting, or they're looking for the murderers of those cops that were in the park. Yeah. And they went to that club that was at the beginning, and they are beating the shit out of all the black people that are there, just, on a rampage.
Hey, what do you know? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, just not, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the other thing about this page. This next page is like a double page spread where the top is the cops, and they kept the color scheme of the last page, but I was like, wait, how do you read this? Because there's a lot of bubbles all over the place on the bottom, like speaking bubbles, and the middle is yellow, so you're supposed to read all that at once, and then the bottom is purple. So you're supposed to read all that at once. But if you didn't know that, you could definitely follow them in the wrong order, which I did the first time and was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, wait, okay, I get it. Now I get it. I had to like also I'm reading this digitally too. So it was kind of like shrunken, and I'm like messing with the size so I can see what's going on. So I wasn't seeing the full page all the time at once, like you're supposed to when you open a comic book. So that might have been what it was too. Maybe in an actual comic book format and like physical, it is easier to understand and read and follow. Probably. If I had to guess, that's probably what it was. So I'm reading from a digital medium.
Well, see, and then that's just Amazon and all these companies ruining the comic book.
Ruining the comic. Well, now you have to think about that, I guess, when you write a comic or you release a comic. It's going to be put out digitally for sure.
Yeah.
So, like, not that you have to think about that, but, just like on any medium, if the medium changes, you're going to have to like, rethink. Even Marvel and stuff, or the main companies, when they got better paper in the 90s, or in the late 80s, they had to rethink of how they colored stuff, because now all of a sudden the colors are like super vibrant on the new paper, and it didn't used to be on shitty newsprint. And so they had to like reconfigure how they did coloring. But it took like a year or two of like, oh, we have different paper. Some of these issues are coming out weird looking or whatever. So just interesting. So anyway, back to the comic we're reading right now. Sorry about the tangents today. We have little we like pop-up video basically about comics and stuff every now and then. But like we said, the police are attacking in Harlem. The Sangerye family is trying to figure out what to do with Berg and how he's transforming into a monster. And then Ford and Peckerwood are going to this old Civil War dude's house, who's like, because this is in the 20s, so I assume he's wearing a Civil War hat and he's got a Southern flag on his doorstep or whatever. So I'm assuming he actually fought in the Civil War and was on that side. And so Ford comes in to talk. Actually, I'm sorry, Peckerwood goes in to talk to this guy, and the way he's talking to him, it's just Ford's not even in the room, because obviously this guy's racist. So they're talking, and he's like, Peckerwood's like, hey, do you know why there would be monsters anywhere at all? Like, have you ever heard of monsters in this area? And he's like, why do you ask? And then Ford comes in and says, well, I'm asking because we need to know if you like know where these monsters are coming from, because apparently maybe this guy knows like where a doorway is or a portal to the other world where these new kind of monsters are coming in, not Janu, but something else, something different. And that was there's like a couple, because there's two different types of monsters that they explain how humans become these monsters, and then there's also a portal to hell where other monsters come from. There's a lot of different monster generating areas in this comic.
A little different monster lore between the two different kinds. You got to separate that out. But they I think they explain.
Yeah, I think it fits, but like it was just like now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, that is kind of weird that there's literally a portal to hell that has monsters, and there's two different types of monsters that are specifically human monsters that are only happen when you get corrupted or something horrible happens to you. So this old Southern man, Civil War guy, he's like, oh, come here, and he tries to eat Ford as he's turning into a monster. He looks like a goblin or something, right? Yeah. Like a traditional Lord of the Rings kind of goblin or something. But he's all green and everything. But Ford is able to take him on pretty good, shoots him, doesn't really have a problem killing him. And that's where he's like, hey, we need to find out where, like, if there is a portal here, and because he's heard of portals and whatnot. We'll find out later why he's heard of portals, but he knows that there's like portals to other dimensions where monsters come from. Then we cut to San Juan Hill in Harlem, in west of Harlem, where Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale are, after he has eaten the souls of the two white people. And we get like a back history on what happened to them, how have they transformed, or why are they like the way they are. And basically we find out they were from Tulsa when Black Wall Street was attacked. And so from that massacre, they were like two that survived, and they found each other there. And I guess they are a different type of monster than the Janu. Their type of monster comes from like unending sadness and despair that you feel when like something really tragic happens. So specifically, they feel like that obviously because they were at Tulsa, and that's why they have transformed into these monsters or are able to, and they're only keeping it at bay for the meantime until they're like ready to do their full plan where he's like gonna Hulk out and go crazy and everything. So, and apparently they are contagious because when she scratched or threw Berg, he became infected and is becoming one of these monsters slowly. And I say slowly, like at first he can talk, like we said at the last issue. He's still talking like himself. Then in the middle of this issue, he's like full, monstered out where he can't talk anymore and he's fighting his family and he's yelling, help me as Berg, but then obviously there's like an inner fight going inside of him.
Yeah, it's like, help me. With the monster overtaking him, obviously.
Yeah, and the family's like, well, he's not a Janu because that wouldn't happen to him. So, like, what is this? And do we have the right formulas for this kind of thing? And like, how do we make it? And so they're kind of researching that. And then we see the policemen are coming out of the club, still chasing all the people that were inside and kind of just beating or rounding up a bunch of black people. And specifically, there's one guy that is beating the shit, or I think it's a group of guys that are beating the shit out of one specific black man. And the cop, I think it's the cop from...
It's the Irish cop.
It's the Irish cop out of the two buddy cops or whatever. They're the buddy cop cops that are in this... the African-American man and
Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, Bert. Yeah, we'll call him Bert and Ernie. There you go. So this is Bert, and the other guy's Ernie. So Bert is like, hold on, guys. Like, maybe we shouldn't be beating the fuck out of all these people. I guess he's got a soft spot, even though he was a little bit racist where he keeps saying you people. But other than that, like, I guess he's like okay with them, or at least doesn't want to see them beat to death by his fellow policemen. So as he puts his hand on this cop's shoulder who's freaking out and beating the fuck out of this black man, the guy turns around and he's like, oh my God. And he sees the cop's face, and all the cops that were beating up this black man are, they talk to him like, what are you looking at? But their faces are all demonized or demonic or whatever. They're all super like fucked up. And he's taken aback by that. So in the meantime, the family, in trying to find a solution to fix Berg, they realize, or they keep bringing up someone named Enoch, Uncle Enoch, and apparently he's been like, what's that called? Excommunicated from the family. Like they don't talk to him anymore, but apparently he's like a badass, or at least knows a lot more about this kind of science/magic, because he gets into the magical side of it, like the arcane arts or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it seems like maybe Mama Etta is like, oh, this is a science, and you can cross a line where it goes into magic.
Yeah.
And so Enoch did that, and apparently he did something real bad when he did that, and that's what we find out is kind of like has killed the parents of this family, because obviously there's a grandma and then there's a bunch of kids or younger people, and their parents were the people who I guess got killed by Enoch at some point in the past. So
yeah, Blink and Cullen.
That's
their mom. Yeah, Blink and Cullen are brother and sister, and Berg is their cousin.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that. I didn't.
I just saw him. I saw Berg call them cousin once. That's
okay. Gotcha. Okay, so I must have missed that because I thought they were all like brothers and sisters. So, but yeah, so the mom and dad are missing, and Ma Etta is the one who's been taking care of them. And so Cullen goes to talk to Enoch, and he goes into the house. He tries to knock on the door, but no one answers. And he's like, hello? And he's like, well, let me just try the handle. The handle opens, and he walks in, and he's like, Uncle Enoch? And then immediately gets attacked by all these little gremlin creatures or whatever.
They look like gremlin dogs.
Yeah. They kind of look like, what's that? There's a game like Ratchet and Clank or something.
Oh, Ratchet and Clank, yeah.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's okay. So, yeah, he looks like Ratchet. Is
Yeah.
it Ratchet?
Yeah, because Clank is the robot.
Oh, fuck if I know. Oh, yeah. I don't play games. So I saw a commercial once when I was 11.
They look like demonic chihuahuas to me.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good explanation of them. So yeah, but they also have like cyborg arms. And
some
shit.
of them do. Yeah, that's
so. Yeah. So he gets attacked by them, and then Enoch comes out and is like, whoa, guys, he's not a bad person. But he's also like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? like, you think you can just walk in my house? So Enoch kind of, we see he's definitely he's definitely dabbled in the arts. He's the Constantine of this family, I guess.
Yeah.
He got people killed. He's a badass or whatever, and you only call him when things are really bad. So then we cut back to the house in Harlem where Berg is like destroying everything. He's broken out of his chair. He's trying to attack his family. He's fully monstered out, like we said. And Mama Etta's like, all right, not in my house, and you've gone too far, and I'm not afraid to. If I have to take you out, I'm going to take you out, my way or whatever. So she puts on Cullen's little backpack with gloves, the power gloves. We'll call them power gloves. And she starts to beat the shit out of him, which I thought was funny. Like grandma can still beat the fuck out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Show grandma was a badass. Everybody in this family is somewhat of a badass.
Yeah, for sure, in their own right. And so. Then we cut back to, see, this is like where I said they keep cutting back to like one page. So we cut back to Mississippi without saying we're in Mississippi. And, but you're just supposed to know because Ford is here and he's looking around the cabin of that Civil War guy that he just beat up that was like a monster. And he finds a map on the back of a painting of Jefferson Davis, and who, if you don't know, was the president of the Confederate States of America. And, he finds a map that has all these dots on it that are like, it's a map of America. And it's all these dots of portals or like portal locations where things from hell or from the portal can get through. And so he's like, we got to go back to my home. And Peckerwood's like, well, where's home? He's like, Harlem. So he heads home.
So he's got to go home too. He's got to get with the family.
Yes. And then we cut to another area where it is now, we cut back to that outside of that club where the police have turned into monsters. And in the meantime, after they've turned into monsters and the other cops are like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, why did some of them turn into monsters and not all?
Because only some cops have hate in their hearts.
Okay. The other ones, I think they're justified in the murder.
I guess. I don't know. It was a little odd.
Yeah. So there's definitely like a little bit of inconsistency with who turns and what. It's kind of like, is it convenient for the story or not? Because like we said, the Irish cop Bert is
Bert and Ernie aren't there. They're fine.
But they still like beat people or arrest them at least, or, whatever. So like, I don't know. And like we said, Peckerwood, he was a KKK member, even though he might not have lynched anybody yet. He was literally about to.
Yeah, he had the hood on and everything, and then punched the guy.
But he didn't turn. And then he quickly was like, hey, buddy, we're friends now, Ford, and I won't call you that word you don't want me to call you anymore.
Yeah.
So, but so like we said, it's kind of inconsistent, but like we said, it's just kind of pushing the story forward.
Yeah, I think it's just moving the story.
You can kind of suspend disbelief because it's comics. Don't take it too seriously. But it's just little things I noticed that some writers like really go out of their way to like explain why this happened or add another storyline of maybe extend the story of some of those characters so where they don't have like a quick change. It gives it like over a couple issues or whatever, which I prefer. But some people don't care about that. So anyway, back to the cops. There's, like we said, there's cops who haven't changed and they're pointing their guns at the cops who have changed. And then Dr. Sylvester, who is now he's like roided out. He's like fucking hovering.
He kind of reminded me of Jafar when he goes genie.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of exactly like.
So he doesn't turn into a snake or anything.
No. I just like when he's like, okay, I want to be a genie, so he goes like all big
buff.
And red. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, because his eyes, Dr. Sylvester's eyes are fully red, and he's flying. He's like hovering.
And yeah, he is.
He's fucking ripped. And, he doesn't look. He looks like. At first, I was like, is this a different person? Because he literally like bulked it. It looks like he just went on.
When he was Dr.
steroids.
Sylvester, he had glasses. He was like kind of like thin, nerdy
vest.
looking, like in his apartment / lab, and like you kind of saw like him when he was taking the souls. Like obviously something was happening to him, but this is the first time we fully have seen him. So just seeing him on the page appear. Yeah, I did think it was someone else at first. I was like, who's this guy?
Until I was like, okay, no, this has to be him because that's him like Hulk out or whatever. So, yeah, he's fully transformed. And he's like, oh, don't worry. I'll kill these people. I'll get my retribution. Because he's, like we said, he was in Tulsa. He's fucking mad at basically all these people. Anybody who's got hate in their heart, specifically white people that were like terrorizing black people.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to murder all of you people. So even though they're demon looking or whatever, or corrupted, he can still like eat their souls now. I guess he just pulls their souls out of their body and like murders.
This is cool. No forgiveness, no retribution. It just like this, like it's almost like a liquidy kind of a soul, but like ripped out of their bodies.
Yeah, it's almost like the soul's in there, and when you rip it out, blood and viscera come out too, because it just rips
it's
so
like attached
hard.
to everything. I guess.
Yeah. It's like tendons and sinew or whatever pull out.
Yeah,
and all that gore comes out too. And the cops' faces in this were funny. They just look like, holy shit. But that's what I was saying. Like, you see Bert and Ernie both here, and they were at this Harlem thing, assumingly terrorizing the black residents of this area and the people that were at this dance hall. So it's kind of like, okay, are they? I get that they're the comedy relief cops, but they're still like bad people, right? Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's a little bit murky in how they're going with some of the characters. But anyway, so we see he's able to like just rip, like we said, the souls out of these people, and he's just murdering these Janu that have been corrupted. And he specifically says like, I'm not letting you purify them. Like the Sangerye family, they just purify people, and I'm not into that. I want to fully fucking murder these people and kill them.
I basically like, I want retribution for everything. I want all souls, not just the purified variant. Like, I'm going to take care of the bad and the good, all of it.
Right. And so I guess there's more cops besides the ones that are good that have turned. And so they start attacking Dr. Sylvester right away, and they're just like, a bloody fight massacre that's going on, because none of them are really able to hurt Dr. Sylvester, but he's decapitating all of them and going crazy and everything. And I wasn't really sure, is this right outside of the Sangerye family's, like?
I think so, yeah. Okay. I think it's making its way down.
Okay, so they're that close to the...
I think so. I think they're supposed to be like close enough, their shop or whatever.
Right. Okay, so in the meantime, we're right outside the Sangerye shop, and they're like, hey, we're going to have to fight. You see everything that's going on outside? So Blink is like, okay, she gets all these knives off the wall and shit, because they have all these weapons and shit. She gets all armored up, and she's like, I'm going to go outside and fight all these monsters. So she walks out the door, and she's like instantly surrounded by all these Janu. And she's doing her thing, and then we cut to the inside where Berg is looking like he's somewhat controlled now, because
he's back in the chair.
Out before. Grandma beat him up, and now he's tied back in the chair, like you said. And there's some kind of machine or device on him, which I'm assuming is taking the power out of him or something, because his head is, even though it's still green and his eyes are red, he's like back to his old self-looking forehead and beard and all that stuff. So, and Grandma's like talking to him, and he's like, look, I understand you might not believe me. I'm a big monster, but I need to help her out. She's going to die if I don't go help Blink. So please, we don't want to lose any more of our family. We already lost my aunt and uncle.
Yeah, and like you said, like he still looks green. He's still got a little bit of that in him, but like he's also gone back to his like eloquent language too. He's like, no, I implore you, Mama, ma Etta, like let me help.
Yeah, you must let me reciprocate.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely has gotten back his mental faculties. And and Blink outside she's kicking ass, but she's also getting like thrown to the ground. And then right as she's about to like get maybe disemboweled or something by a monster, we realize, oh, Mama Etta let him out because he was like begging to her, and she's like, okay, I hope I'm doing the right thing. And then like she lets him out, and he breaks through the front of their building, which I was like, oh. Damn.
Could you just walk through the door?
There's a door, man.
Now they're gonna have to fix all that.
They literally have to pay for the repairs of all of that stuff. They didn't have insurance back then, all right? And but yeah, so he just breaks through and starts fighting with her, and Grandma Etta comes out too, and like pulls her off the ground. And then as they're like, now there's like 3 of them, and they're ready to fight all these monsters. Someone comes up in a pretty badass looking motorcycle with a sidecar, and it's Uncle Enoch and Cullen and all of his little demon monsters with robot arms. And once again, I don't know if they're actual demons or whatever.
He said demon dog something, but I think they're something he, I guess, partially created, or maybe he manipulated. But then, like I said, they also look like Chihuahua creatures. I don't know. They're cool. They're cute.
And I'm not sure where this is in relation to their, place, because this seems like it's further down the road or something, because we don't see the family. We just see them kind of pull around a corner, and I thought, oh, they're there, but they're not.
But they're not quite there, yeah.
And they hit a police car that was being driven by a Genu policeman or monster policeman, and they kind of like breaks their motorcycle, and then
they like bump it and swerve around it, but then they get knocked in the side real hard.
Oh yes,
you see like watch out, and then they don't know what hit them, and then we see on the very end of the panel it's the big bird creature. It's
who's Miss Nightsdale.
Yeah, Miss Nightsdale.
So Miss Nightsdale is fighting them now, and she's like Sangerye, so happy you could join us, and like they're going off. Like both her and Dr. Sylvester are happy that this is all going down. They finally get to murder a bunch of people and get revenge for everything that happens. But now Cullen seems to have kind of, I don't know, grown up a bit in the last couple issues, because maybe talking to Enoch, he's gotten like a fighting spirit, we'll say. Like he's gone past his being scared of everything, and now he's moved into like, fuck it, I'm part of this family. We're gonna fight monsters. I'm gonna be badass just like everybody else. So he gets one of Enoch's guns and he starts shooting this thing. In the meantime, Enoch is on the ground. He's kind of recovering from that blow up of his very cool motorcycle and sidecar. And Enoch shoots. There's like this other big kind of demon thing that's around this bird monster, and he shoots it with one of the guns that has when the guns shoot, they're not bullets. It's like the vials shoot out, and then they it's kind of like a tranquilizer gun.
Yeah, I
except
guess so.
The vials are not. They don't have like a dart on them or anything. It's just literally
a little glass
vial flies out and pokes into you. So he shoots that monster, and it starts to change him back into a human. And then he begins to shoot at the bird monster, who's Miss Nightsdale. Then we cut back to in front of the shop, the Sangerye shop, and I guess the fighting has died down now that the family has like started working together. And this part was a little confusing to me because there's people outside and they're like, "Holy shit, there's monsters!" Like actual humans that see this giant hulking green version of Berg. And then the rest of the family who's got like knives and shit, and like they're all warriored out and everything, armored up, and they just saw all these cops that were monsters,
murdering
demons,
people,
murdering people, and then they got murdered. So there's a lot of stuff going on that these humans saw, and it seems like they're like, what the fuck? But then then we cut to the inside, and it doesn't say like time has passed or anything. You're just supposed to assume that time has passed, I guess, and we see the people that were outside that were in disbelief are now waiting in the room while Ma Etta works on I guess one of the guys who got corrupted or scratched or something, who's turning into one of the Genu.
Yeah, she said she's trying to stop the infection from spreading in it. Yeah, because I thought it was only people that had the hate in their heart were the ones
that were in despair. But then it's like, well, that's why I was saying it's kind of confusing because we have 3 different types of monsters.
Yeah,
there's the despair monster who apparently can infect. There's the Genu monster, and then there's the ones that are actually in hell, in the hell dimension, and we don't know what they have to do with any of this or whatever. So, and then also they say what the despair side, like when you're in such despair and you go through such pain and heartache, you become another type of monster. What's that monster called again, John?
Inzondo,
that's right. So that's like you become that when you have so much like despair and stuff. So that comes from obviously very horrible things happening to you in your life. And Enoch is telling Cullen about these things, and basically he's explaining that that's what Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale are. They're this other kind of monster that's not a Genu, it's an Inzondo, and they can infect you with a scratch or whatever. So kind of like zombies.
And I guess that kind of makes sense because like if you're feeling helpless and in despair, and that can spread to other people. So
right.
You get the basis behind that.
Yeah, and so as they're walking, they are then confronted. Now they reach to the part of the street where the Dr. Sylvester is, and he, like we said, he's all hulked out, and he's got a bunch of new monsters with him because he's, I guess, transformed a bunch of people that were attacked into Inzondos. And then and this is where he gets like full Jafar'd out, which I thought like he really looks like Jafar, and like when he was like ultimate cosmic power, and like that. He's got the face. He also looks like there's a bad guy in Berserk, who's I can't remember what his name is, but he's some kind of like Middle Eastern king or whatever, like emperor. And he looks a lot like that guy too, because the way that he draw, because that's all like demons and shit. And so like when they draw his face all demoned out, it looks like this too. So, but yeah, he's shredded, and even his pants have been torn off now.
His pants have been shredded.
Yeah, they're not even pants anymore. It's just like he wrapped himself in like a little loincloth. Shredded loincloth. Now that's what he's got. So, like we said, Cullen has kind of stepped up to the plate as far as fighting. So he's like, "Don't worry, I got this, Enoch." And then we cut back to Ma Etta's place, where that person that she was trying to help has full Jinnooed out, basically, and is trying to attack her and some of the other people in the house. And we see that we get like a nice fight scene with Ma Etta, where she's like, "How dare you do that in my house," basically. And she picks up her staff, which is different than the one that Berg has. It doesn't have writing on it, but it has like a circle at the top. Yeah, loop at the end. And not like a shepherd's crook or whatever, but it's like a complete loop. Yeah. So it's kind of like a special looking staff. And it probably has magic powers or something, because when she hits that demon with it, it flies back and just flies out of the room. It doesn't even, because their whole house is destroyed in the front, or the whole like parlor or whatever, she hits it and it flies out of the whole building.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty hard.
Yeah. And everybody's kind of like, whoa. And then they look outside the building and they see, there's like a shit ton of monsters, and they're not Jinnoo. They're like these new, more badass looking monsters that are like, each one kind of looks unique per whatever I guess they're maybe feeling, or how their despair is. But they look pretty badass. I like the way that they looked. But then as they're about to attack that family, and Ma Etta's like, and everybody's kind of bracing for impact and fighting, someone shoots the monsters, and all the monster heads explode. And then we see, who is it but the long lost, is he your cousin or something? What is Ford? Their uncle, their other uncle or something?
I think it's other uncle, yeah.
Maybe he's Berg's dad or something. But
yeah, maybe it is Berg's dad.
I don't know. They don't say what relation Ford is, but basically Ford comes because he was with Peckerwood. And I like, Peckerwood looks like Jimmy Olsen in this or something.
They kind of.
As the further he gets away from the KKK meeting, he looks more and more innocent and young and less terrible or whatever. So like he looks more like Jimmy Olsen now, and he's got like a little space between his teeth and everything, and he's got the little floof in the front of his hair, the little swoop, I guess you call it. So Ford, he's not here to heal anybody. He's kicking ass and taking names. Then we cut back to Enoch and Cullen, who are trying to shoot Dr. Sylvester, but it's not working. And we see behind Dr. Sylvester, there is in fact a portal. So Dr. Sylvester has found a portal, which is probably the portal that Ford came back to protect or whatever, or make sure it didn't get open. But he has opened it. And Cullen is fighting him and is like, "I got this, Enoch." And he runs at one of the monsters and grabs the neck. And Enoch's like, "Wait, no, don't." And Cullen gets pulled into the portal, and he flies into hell or wherever the portal goes.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite panels, actually, because it starts off big, and when he's grabbing it, and he falls back, and he gets pulled into the portal. And then as he's like falling into the portal, then the panels like fall and get smaller and fall off the page. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. And then we're on the last chapter now. So Cullen falls into War World, wherever the fuck this is, some kind of demon hell dimension, and someone finds him, and we're like, "Wait, who's this person?" And I think they even mentioned like earlier in the last issue, or maybe earlier, right before this happens, like, "Oh, that's our family got pulled, like mom and dad got pulled into a portal, and that's why we don't talk to Enoch anymore, because he opened some kind of portal or whatever." So, I mean, I guess if you were a little kid, you wouldn't realize this, but obviously this is the parents of Cullen and Blink and that have found him. And then we cut back to Earth, where in Harlem, Dr. Sylvester now has all these monsters around him, and he's all hulked out, and he's ready to kill Enoch. And Enoch's like, not, you're not going to get me today. And he tries some magic, some actual like real magic, and it doesn't do anything. And Enoch's very like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna die. Like it doesn't seem like it's working that well. And Enoch realizes, oh, this is out of my pay grade as far as power goes. And so Dr. Sylvester attacks him and like wraps these tentacles around him and shit. It's very like he can kind of do whatever he wants with his body at this point. It's I don't know. He like wraps around him like if he was Mr. Incredible or something. And then right when he's doing that, we see the family come out and they're like, hey, like you think you can just fight him, fight us or whatever. And they begin to fight for Enoch and start beating up all the monsters. And even Blink puts on the power gloves and fights literally like just straight on, starts punching Dr. Sylvester. So she's actually doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, and she gets a couple good ones in there.
Yeah, which could, I mean, if you think what didn't work on him, that's pretty good. And then this was a thing I didn't like or understand why they didn't show it like a different way. So Dr. Sylvester has been kind of beaten up by Blink. So he's on the ground and Miss Nightsdale comes over in bird form and is like, I have you, Dr. Sylvester.
And like picks him up and flies away.
No, she doesn't fly away, does she?
Yeah, well, she's starting to fly away.
Oh, okay. Well, as she's flying away with him, Ford takes out like his fucking rocket launcher, basically, and they don't show him shoot. So I was like, what happened here? I didn't know what happened. You just hear, you see his pointing, and you see a scree from her. Like, I didn't know if she was like, just like, fuck you.
I knew, yeah, I did. That one was, I didn't know if she was like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. But apparently, he does shoots because when we see her next time, she's actually injured or whatever. So that's why I was like, what is going on? Like, what happened there? I don't know. They could have. I don't know why they didn't show the blast happening at least out of the muzzle so that we could understand. Oh, it's shooting, and when we see the bird scree, we're like, okay, that's what happened. But certain things like that just was a little bit.
Just a little, yeah. Or they could have literally, the next page could have been the continuation of what happened to her. So we
and well, I get the cutting to another scene or whatever, another area, but just all you got to do is draw a muzzle blast at the end of this gun, and you're like, oh, he shot it. But it just shows him aiming, and then like, so we don't know. There's no boom or anything or blast or any kind of onomatopoeia sound or anything. So we don't know what happened until you see her next time. You're like, oh, I guess she was injured by that, which is in a couple pages. So that was the problem I had. But anyway, we see the family is now like recovering from that fight, and they start talking, and they're very much like, we fucking hate you, Enoch.
God damn it, Enoch. Why are you even here? It's like, well, I didn't go get me. Cullen came and got me.
Cullen came, and they're like, by the way, where is Cullen? And he's like, about that. Cullen got pulled into, the hell dimension, and they're like, what? That's what happened to our parents. So that's what they reveal.
How dare you? Like, you're the whole reason. That's the whole reason we didn't watch you.
Yes, and so, he got Cullen and apparently Blink's other parents, pulled into the hell dimension. And then we cut back to beneath the city, where I guess Sylvester has another lair.
I guess so.
Which they haven't shown before, but apparently because there's other monsters there now. So maybe they just went into the sewers. I don't know. They showed fly away, though. That's why it's a little confusing. But he takes Miss Nightsdale, who's now like just kind of slowly turning back into human form as she's dying because she was shot by the cannon or whatever. And once again, I wasn't sure exactly what was happening here because I didn't know that she got shot. And I was like, wait, is she... They don't show blood or like a hole in her side or anything. You know what I mean? Like this would have been the perfect time to show a giant wound. Like her arm is off or something. You know what I mean? Or a leg has a fucking hole in it or some shit, or her side. But they don't show any of that. So it was kind of like, okay, I guess she's dying, and he pointed a gun at her, so I guess she got shot. I don't know. But she actually offers her soul up to him because she's like loves him because of what they've kind of trauma bonded through and everything in Black Wall Street in Tulsa. So she's like, hey, I want to give you the last of my soul so you can have some strength to fight the Sangeryes. And so he's like, he takes it like, fuck those Sangeryes. Like they killed my love or my at least friend that was bonded with me, because they don't really. I didn't know if they were in love or not.
Yeah, they didn't. They were obviously bonded, and they were like, we have each other's backs, but they didn't really make it a love connection.
And they could have, because she gets naked. Well, when she turns into a human after she first attacks those policemen and meets the Sangeryes for the first time, she's naked. And it could have been like, now there's a love scene, or he looks at her or whatever and smirks or some shit like, oh, they have a sexual thing. They don't do that at all. So he just, I was like, he's got a strong mind because he just stares right at her eyes. There's no, even when she turns around to like go put her clothes on or whatever, he doesn't peek or nothing. Not in this comic. So I was like, good on you, Dr. C. He's got bigger fish to fry.
He does.
He's
got time to worry about this.
No, yeah.
He got time for women.
Exactly.
Like that.
Not like that. Yeah. I mean, he wants to kill them or suck their souls out or whatever, but not like that. So then we cut to hours later, and everybody's still like recovering from what happened, and everybody's yelling in the family and pissed off. We see the I guess it's Bert and Ernie. Is that who it is?
Yeah.
So Bert and Ernie are feeding people with soup outside that Ma Etta has made because obviously there's this giant cataclysmic events in this neighborhood, and no one else is helping them. The city's not going to help Harlem, so they're helping themselves. And there's like an argument between Blink and Etta about like, what are we going to do? There's a fucking monster that kills everybody and all this stuff, and he's too powerful, and we got to figure something out. And Etta's like, well, I mean, we could think about that, but we got to tend to the immediate needs of like the community or whatever. So, and we even have Peckerwood serving these people. That's what I was saying. Like, he has really transformed in the last 2 days. So
yeah,
he went from KKK member to feeding unhoused people, or like people that were hurt by this whole fight
displaced.
Thing.
That's where you're going for.
That's what I was looking for.
That's my $10 word.
Yes. So he was displaced is your $10 word.
That's the word. It's like a $5.
Terrible word. Yeah. So anyway, they're displaced from this fight scene, this fight that happened, or cataclysmic event in this community. So yeah, he's just feeding them, which I thought was funny. He's complaining about having to hold the pot, and the policeman's like, yeah, you have to hold the pot. And he's like, why do I have to hold the pot? He's like, because it's heavy. So it's kind of like, okay, that's his penance for being in the KKKs. He gets to hold the pot.
You get to hold the heavy pot.
Yeah. So we cut to the inside of the house that, isn't really inside anymore because it's part of the outside because there's no wall because Berg burst open the front of the building. And we see Enoch has concocted a different kind of root serum that he's going to cure Berg with, and he gives it to him, and it does cure Berg, at least in this comic. I can only imagine that, because he says, I feel like there's still something there, but for the most part, I feel like myself or whatever. So I feel like maybe he does get to Hulk out later on, and that's what I was kind of alluding to. And as he's kind of like, oh, I feel good or whatever, tentacle shootout, because guess what? Dr. Sylvester, he's pissed off that his love or his friend died, and he goes directly at the Sangeryes and just begins attacking everybody in the front of this place and with all his monsters and everything. And so the family is, they gear up right away. Like they're immediately ready with guns in hand and stabs and everything.
It's a perfect what is that perfect
superhero moment.
Splash panel of like the Avengers in a circle. It's the whole family. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, they're ready to go.
Yeah, and Dr. Sangerye, he's got his tentacles and shit, so he picks them up, and then he's like kind of about to kill them or whatever, and someone comes through with like a bird mask on, and they have their own staff, I guess, and they cut through the tentacles of Dr. Sylvester. And it's two people, right?
Yes, two people.
So it's two people that fly through. And they're like, what? Who is this? Who dare attack me? And basically, they just start murdering all the demons, and the family joins in, and they start killing all the demons together. And
that splash page was a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on
on this page.
A lot. But, it looks cool, though.
It does, yeah. Lots of fighting.
Yeah, there's just lots of fighting, basically. And at the end of the fighting, he's like, I thought this was kind of like, what? But Dr. Sylvester's like, I will be back. And just like kind of gets taken away by some two demons that are picking him up off the ground. And
they go through a hell portal?
Yeah, I don't know.
I assume that's what he was doing. I looked like they were going through a hell portal.
They go through something.
It very much felt like an Inspector Gadget, like, I'll get you, Gadget.
Yes.
And he just gets away at the end.
Except if Gadget was in the room with him and had handcuffs and a gun ready, but he's like, oh, I guess I'll get you next time.
Yeah.
Like, because they literally are like, just let him go. Like, we got a more important fish to fry here. So they just let him walk out. And then the kids are like, wait, who are you? And then the people in the mask, obviously we know who they are, but they're like,
they demask and it's like, oh.
Well, they say like, you know who we are, Blink and Cullen or whatever, and then they take it off and it's their mom. And the other person, this is kind of surprising. This is a little bit confusing, and I want to get your take on this. The other person takes off their mask and it's Cullen, but he looks aged like 10 years.
Yeah, he looks older, like he's seen some shit.
Yes, he's got scars on his face. But the mom, she looks older, but she looks as old as I would think she would be for, I don't know, maybe she's supposed to be super old. I don't know. I guess she, maybe, I don't know.
To me, it seemed like, okay, yeah, it's the mom. Like, that one made sense.
Right.
And she looks to be from the panel of the right age.
Right. That's what I thought too. But then when they showed Cullen, I'm like, wait, did she not age and he did, or what happened here? So I was a little bit confused, but that's the end of this book.
Well, so the only thing that makes me think it's older too is because the last thing he says on the page is, oh, because they're all freaked out, like, Cullen, you're here, and they're like, what happened to you? And he says, we can explain everything, but right now we have to get ready. Hell is coming. So that only thing that made me think is maybe there's a time difference in this hell place. And, like, so he was there fighting and, like, preparing and, like, figuring things out because of, that's coming. I don't know. That's the only thing I assume.
Right. I mean, that's what has to happen because he does look so much older.
Because he's also not, like, as scrawny here. Like,
he's all buff and, he looks much more mature.
His jaw line even looks a little more.
He's got hair on his face. He just got pulled in with a fresh face 2 hours ago or whatever. And now he's got a full, almost, he's got scruff at least.
He's got a scruff, yeah.
And beards don't grow that fast. I don't know. So yeah, that's the end of this book. John, what would you give it? What'd you think?
I mean, I liked it overall. There was definitely some, had to go back and, like, flip some panels and be like, wait a minute, what happened? What's happening? Where are we? I had to do that a couple times too. I feel like they didn't bother me maybe as much as it sounded like it bothered you, but well, just 'cause, and this is the thing. Will be a little side tangent too. Is like when watching a movie, when two characters to progress have to be like, hey, I know we just met, but we're best friends now, right? I'm usually like, okay, like, and I just go along with the story. Particularly, like we said, when we watched The Force Awakens again for the first time, that was your main thing. Like, why did Finn and Poe become friends? Like, right away. And I was like, it's a trauma thing. They're friends.
It's not even
They're
like
together.
becomes friend. It's like, I will die for you.
Yeah.
like I am now indebted to you for life because we just met and shook hands for the first time. And that's like it's an unearned kind of friendship or whatever.
And I can see that. And for the best stories, yes. But if it's just like we're making our way through this, like I look past it a lot of time, I think.
Right.
And I think I did with this too, because like I was like, yeah, okay. That's a lot of family members. As
a
far
lot of
as,
characters.
Like, just to keep track of sometimes.
Yeah.
Like that definitely did feel that sometimes. But I still enjoyed them all, and I think Berg was still my favorite.
They were all very distinct, which
Yeah.
is good. So it wasn't like you got confused of who's who or anything.
That's true, not at all. But yeah, overall, I mean, like we said, we didn't really go as hard on, but like the art is great. Like,
oh yeah,
it was very not very often did I have any issues of like, oh, like it looks like they like kind of left things out here. They didn't go as hard.
No, it was super detailed. It's definitely stylized.
Detailed.
It's got its own kind of cartoony feel, but in like a good way. Like,
oh yeah, yeah, it was great. So I liked it all very much. I'm gonna give it a 7. It was solid.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I didn't know. I was like, I like you said, I'm giving it a 7 because of where I went with it. I don't say that like I felt like yours would probably be a little lower than mine.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I had a fun time reading it. It was like, it was fun. It was kind of like, as long as I didn't think too hard about everything, it was fine. And I get that, like with comics, some people are just like, it's a comic book, have fun, don't think of it too seriously. It's just like when it involves storyline plots or, like I said, you go so hard about, okay, this character is a KKK member. It wasn't like he was there or happened upon it and was like, what's going on, guys? I'm your friend. But I'm not in the KKK. That might have been a little different. Maybe they could have made him not part of the actual KKK. But the fact that he punched the guy that was about to be killed, and then it's like,
he said the line about that I'll teach you to be with white women, or
yes,
talk to whatever. Yeah, we did.
So it seemed like he did have a lot of hate in his heart, and he for some reason didn't get changed. So things like that, I couldn't. It's not like I couldn't get past them. It's just they would stick. They stuck in my mind as things to say, hey, this is something I would change if I wrote this, or I would maybe do a better job of explaining that kind of thing.
I feel like people can change in a time, and like I still see, I see the hope in humanity.
All right.
I'm kidding.
Some people can. I see hope in humanity. It's just, it takes a while for change, So, generally.
I think if you point a gun to my face, like, I'm going to change pretty quick.
pretty quick. But it truly in your heart, though, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That deep.
Okay. Okay, John. You're different than me. Anyway. Or different than how I think of people. But yeah, so I think, like I said, this is a solid book. I would recommend it. I would give it to someone to read as like, here's a cool new comic. But I'm going to give it a 6 because actually, no, I'm going to give it 6.5 because the art was really good. Just those little things about the writing, I can't push it over the edge of like a 7, 8,
I
9.
feel like it's still a solid book. It's still a good read. We're not knocking this by any means.
No,
Like, it was
and
a
like I
good
said,
comic.
You can definitely just go, it's a comic, and if you don't care about that stuff as much, go through it. You know what I mean? But like you did. But like for me, I just little things like that. I read it and go, that's just like you could have done a little bit of extra work and just changed it a little bit, and it would have been, so much better for that character.
Yeah.
It would have given that character an actual like full arc, as opposed to like, because I don't know how far these characters go, right? Maybe Peckerwood's not in the rest of the books or anything, but I feel like he is. You know what I mean? Like, or I feel like you have these cops that are supposed to be like Bert and Ernie, or like the humor elements of the police force, and we're supposed to like them. But also,
but we did just see them beat up on people.
Right. So, like, maybe we have to make them not beat up on people and be like, I'm not going to join in with that guys or whatever. Like, I don't like the way this is going. Maybe we should sit around the corner while this is happening. And so, like, maybe they're not evil. Maybe they look the other way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so at least they're not as bad as like the other ones. It just, the stuff like that, I get what they were going for. But sometimes, because they were going so hard on things, then they would try to lighten it up. And the lightness was like, wait, what tone are we going for here? So, I enjoyed it, but just stuff like that stuck with me a little harder than you did, at least, or it did with you. So, 6.5 for me, 7 for John. What are we reading next week, John?
Well, next week we are going to read, Judge Dredd.
Yes,
that's
Judge
right.
Dredd, False Witness.
False Witness. And this is, so obviously Judge Dredd is a white character, but it's the author particularly that we're going after here. This is Brandon M. Easton.
Yeah.
This came highly recommended. Like this is apparently on like some of like people's Judge Dredd was just one of like the best runs.
Yeah, and this came out last year, so I don't know.
So
I've never.
I don't know. I was like, is this a new comic and it's one of the best?
Also, I don't know
runs?
if
Like,
this guy's British either. So
yeah,
I was like, sometimes this happens with Constantine too. When people from America write British characters, I'm always like, I don't know about that, like because it just doesn't have the same feel. So I'm going to judge it like I read, just like I read any other Judge Dredd comic or whatever, and kind of see if it's got the same feel. But apparently everybody says it's amazing. And you know what? I might be wrong. He might be British. Who knows? But it says he's from Long Beach, California, or at least that's where he lives now. So that's why I was assuming that. Maybe I'm wrong, though. So feel free to correct us, people, if you know where he's from. But yeah, so that's exciting. That should be cool. And it'll kind of switch it up because we've only done one Judge Dredd comic so far. And you got to love Judge Dredd. He's awesome. So
yeah.
If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planetrains&comicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com. And if you feel like supporting us and like all of our books and everything, and or feel like you want to suggest books to us to read, we have a couple subscribers to our Ko-fi, which is our support page, who suggest books that we do. And we're going to do one next month after Black History Month for one of those guys. But if you have any suggestions of books that we haven't covered, you can get that pushed through real quick. If you just want to support us at Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, and join our either blue and gold tier, which is you get a shout out and you get to pick a book for us to read or suggest a book for us to read. I guess we'll pretty much do it unless it's some kind of weird, crazy thing or something. But,
Yeah.
And I like that because it'll kind of, sometimes people give good suggestions of like, oh, something we would have never thought to read. Let's do it because this, our people want us to do it. So, and then if you like Matt's Mini Swamp Thing and you're like, hey, you know what else I like from Matt's Mini Swamp Thing? Constantine. I need more Constantine in my life. I am reading Matt's Mini's Hellblazer, which is Constantine's solo series that came out in the 80s. I am starting at issue 1, just like I did with Swamp Thing, and I'm going to go all the way through episode 300 or issue 300. So if you need more Constantine in your life and you like that character from my Swamp Thing Matt's Minis, and it definitely crosses over sometimes. So, if you're like, hey, what happened there? Definitely check out our tier. That's Matt's Minis Hellblazer. And I believe that's $3 a month. And even if you don't want to support one of those tiers and you just want to follow us on there, we definitely post every week all of our media. So all the YouTube all the YouTube reviews that we do, all the podcasts, audio and video of both of those. And then also this week, I believe it's this week, we're going to have a new member start doing videos for us. Our buddy Will is going to start talking about comics on our YouTube channel.
He's coming under the Planes, Trains, and Comic Books
umbrella.
Umbrella is now spreading. We have our first person coming under our wing.
Yeah. So he's an old friend of mine from high school. I don't know, 20 years I've known this guy. So he also likes comics, and I was like, hey, it's not just me and John. If you like comics, you want to make some videos or whatever, we'll throw it on. So we're going to start having his videos on there as well. And so check those out along with my reviews every week. And we will see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.